Okay, I'm going to show you how I cut the cat door on the bin for the litter box. I recommend you watch other people's YouTube. They may have ideas that are also good. One of the things I do that I'm going to note right now is these little molds that are reinforcement. I keep them in the cut, so when I cut the door... When I cut the door, I cut it on the inside. So you're gonna want to preserve. Come on, Bella. This is not the time. I haven't seen you all night. Let's go. So you're gonna want to preserve whatever little structure you got. Don't cut outside the structure. Cut on the inside of the structure so that you keep that little bit of reinforcement. I looked online. They say to make it a minimum of a 6-inch door. I checked both my boxes, and I'm running an 8-inch door. So that means the cut up is about 8 inches up. If you don't have a measuring tape, you know, it's about 2 hands. It's a little over 2 hands. 2 hands or more will do. So the first thing I'm gonna do, so I'm going to put some masking tape and kind of where I want the shape to be. And I'm going to let that little strut right there be my guide. And I'm just going to kind of go straight down with it from there. And then there's that. Let's see. There's that. So I want to cut on the inside. Hi, Bella. Please don't mess on inside the box while I'm cutting it. She's recognizing it. Okay, so I kind of want to give myself enough masking tape. It's kind of screwing up there. I want to give myself enough masking tape that I'm coming down the center of the masking tape. So I put that little bit of that strut right in that center right there. Because I need my line to go. Okay, so right here is where that strut is, and I want that cut so that it's left right on the inside. So that's where I'm going to be having my line coming down from. So I'm gonna mark it. I'll show you. You don't have to hold it that high. Okay, so this is where I'm starting my cut, so that this little brace remains. So that gives me, again, on the inside of the brace, so that gives me my starting point. All my other measurements can come down from here. So that is 5 inches from the outside and 5 inches from the outside. So I've got it pretty evenly marked. Okay, 5 inches from the outside, 5 inches from the outside, cutting it on the inside of whatever my brace, so there's structure. So now that I know that that's 5 inches from the outside, I can just follow that straight down to kind of keep that even. Follow that down with my finger. And again, this is a cat box. It doesn't have to be, you know, mechanically precise. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so let's pause for a moment and I'll get a straight edge. So I've got a straight edge, and I didn't even get a ruler because it's not necessary that you're measuring. You know, you already kind of lined it up, and like I said, we're not engineering. We're just cutting a little door for a cat box. If you want to be, you know, super precise, you can be as precise as you want to be. But by the time you get in there with the razor knife and you're cutting through plastic, you find that it's just going to work out however it works out. And as well, you're going to need some sort of straight edge. You're going to need, if you want to make a little rounded, this is just a cap off of a bottle top. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you want a little rounded corner, you're going to need masking tape, that razor knife. If you don't have a way of measuring, you know, just let it be your guide and then use some sort of piece of paper to draw a straight edge and you can mark off your measurements. Again, we're not going for precision here. We're just making a little hole. Looked on the internet, they recommended 6 inches. I looked at my casings. I'm going on 8 inches. And I can assure you it doesn't bother them. I've even had them where they didn't want to come in and out the ends, so they were jumping over the sidewall on the side. Coming in and out of however high it is really doesn't bother them at all. Mine are at 8 inches. You may want to make yours, if yours is a much smaller, anywhere from 7 to 6 inches. That's about, you know, 2 hands is about 6 inches, depending on how big your hand is. So I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with kind of a 7-inch.
Not 8 like the other ones?
Well, okay. But look how,
yeah.
I mean, that's not much of a gap at all.
Okay.
I'm going to go 7 on this one.
Oh, it's just because Bella is so tall.
Well, let me get the masking tape down and we'll have a look at it. Okay, and then if I wanted to cut this with a little bit of a
Roundness.
Okay, so we're not just doing this on masking tape because we don't want to mark the box up, which is true. We're also doing this on masking tape to protect the plastic when we cut it. So that's part of the reason for wanting to get these lines in the middle of the masking tape. And if you get your design all laid out and you figure out, well, that's just too high, or that's just not wide enough, or I'm going to keep it with maybe the first set of brace but not the second set so I can make the door wider. If you need to adjust it, you can just take the masking tape off and redo it again. We're going to take a pause and go look at our other designs. Okay, so we've measured it and we feel pretty good about it. Now comes the point in time where we start to cut it. We cut it from the masking tape side so that we're not, you know, splitting up the plastic. And I've cut a few of these, and what's ended up working out best for me is I cut from the center and almost to the curve, not quite the curve. I just leave a little bit there. Cut from the center almost to the curve, leave a little bit there. Start here at the center, come down to the curve. The curve kind of holds things in place for me for a little bit. Then when I come up into this heavy point, it just kind of depends on how easily it's going, whether or not I go ahead and cut these. By this point, I don't want these curves to become damaged. They're just kind of held in place structurally while I've done the other big cuts. But then whenever I get up into these cuts, these are the big pieces of plastic that are really holding things in place. And I don't want the curves to be jeopardized. So I go ahead and I cut the curves right as I'm getting up into these big pieces. And what I do is I just keep heating the plastic from the other side. You're not going to get it melting. You don't want to overheat your gun. You don't want to overheat the plastic. It just needs to be soft enough that the razor blade kind of sinks through it without too much resistance. So let's just see how this goes for a little while. Make sure I'm on my right settings. If you've got that heat gun, like in your case, just find a safe point to get that heat gun away from that plastic and just hold it on there a little bit at first, and then a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer until you feel like you've really got a softer play with the plastic. The point is not to cut through the plastic. The point is just to heat it up enough that you just keep etching along. If you get into a motion where you're trying to cut that plastic, you're just going to come up out of it and you're going to scrape across the hard plastic and it's going to get screwed up. So I push that through, it went through pretty softly. And then as I just kind of inch it along, I'm just kind of edging it, and then that plastic gets kind of hard. So I'm gonna come back out. And you're just gonna have to check it. You don't want it to get too hot. Just want it to get hot enough that it's not brittle against the razor knife. It should just let you go through just kind of softly. You should be able to just feel like, yeah, it's just kind of... And then it'll get real hard. And that's actually a pretty good run. I'm right in there right before that curve begins. Probably just gonna let that go right there. And you can see how I just kind of saddled it along, just kind of jiggled it. Oh, if you got that little heat going. Don't overheat your gun. Don't keep it on the plastic too long. Let the air breathe for a moment, come in and out. That'll get nice and hot. When it's nice and hot, you know you've got softer plastic. Don't try to go fast. Just hold it against the resistance. Keep your other arm away from the knife. If you slip, I don't want it anywhere near your other arm. Keep your other hand out of the way of the knife. And you can see there again, I've gone right up to the curve. Pulling it out slowly, I don't want to damage the plastic. So we're going to end up with that really clean cut across there.
Oh yeah.
See that? That's a nice clean cut. Doesn't have a bunch of jaggeds, doesn't have a bunch of scratches. It's like warm plasticky butter. Now, if you cut these rounds right now, you're not going to have any structural integrity while you're cutting these. It'll be one big flap, and it'll just be flapping around on you. So, we're going to leave these. I didn't get too close into these rounds. We're going to leave them right now. And we're going to cut here down, cut here down, cut here up to the top of the handle, cut here up to the top of the handle. Guiding it, just getting it on a wiggle. Wiggling it into the plastic. Get my other hand away from the knife. If anything slips, I don't want to be cutting myself. I've got the cable out of the way. And once it starts to jam up, I don't push it. I don't try to go the extra distance. Only takes a minute to stop. Reheat it. Up a little bit. Wiggles right into the cut I already had. Get my other hand away. And just jiggling it. Just holding the tension softly up against it. Rocking it back and forth. Alright. I can see my line on the other side. Take it. I'm going to take it right up to the bend. You can see my knife coming up on the other side. Taking it right up to the bend. And then I'm going to leave that right there, that structure right there. Work on the other side. Okay, I'm gonna start right about the mid place. I'm gonna put the pointy end in and just wiggle it. And get my hand out of the way so if I slip, I don't hurt myself. Just keep wiggling it until I feel it slide in there. See if I can use any of the remaining heat to come down. A little bit of a wiggle, rewarding me well, but it's starting to get bound up again. And bring it on out. Let's hit it again. Find my, there it is, find my previous incision, get my arm away from the knife. I can see from the other side, I can see my line, so I can just follow it up. That gave nice and easily, still nice and warm, coming right up into the handle. I'm going to take advantage of the moment. Okay, so I have now cut completely the sidewall, completely this sidewall. I've got this hard plastic that I've got to get through, and I've got this hard plastic that I've got to get through. And that's going to be a chore.
Yeah, it's the hardest.
And what I don't want is to tear up my nice round area here where the plastic, where I've cut it together. This structure has held itself really well for these big cuts. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these round corners before I cut the handles. And the handles will be the hardest part and it'll come off. Once I get to the other side and this surface has been heated up, I can really tell how hot the plastic's getting by rubbing it on the other side with my fingers, and then when it gets real hot like that, I can feel it. I'm gonna find that previous incision, and I'm just gonna follow that with a little bit of a curve up into it. And I'm gonna come up with my above incision, and come down, and it'll find it. Otherwise, if I come up, I'll miss it. So once I get up into that arc, I come down, and that's where I catch it. Coming back up. Always just back that off a minute. You don't want that to get so red hot that you blow the fuse or blow the circuit. Always just come away for that moment for it to breathe for a moment. Knife. Start turning up. And I come up on the upside. Come back down. Oh, if I find my incision here. My curve. There's my curve, there's my curve.
Yep. That was a hard one.
Yeah. At this point, I invite you to take a pause and get a drink, because I'm going to do that as well. Pause. Okay, so if you've done this correctly, you've now got it to the point where we need to do the handles. And we've done it very safely all along, and this is the hardest part. So we want to continue to focusing on safety while we get through this hardest part of this plastic here where the handle comes around. Whatever your configuration is, this is, this is the thick part. We want to be sure we leave the braces intact and we leave them with the sidewall. We're going to not cut those into the piece that we remove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work a little piece and then a little piece and a little piece and a little piece. If you get one piece done, then you're just flapping around in the breeze while you're trying to cut this other piece, and you're either going to cut it unevenly or it's going to be a nightmare to do it while you're trying to manage it. So I want to work with what I've already done. I need to stop and pull that up and find that spot where it's got my other hand away. I'm not pushing towards my face, I'm pushing away from my face. I'm gonna grab the handle here a little bit. Okay, I've got it right up against this front of the wall. And I'm just gonna mark that right there so I can come back to it on the next side run. Okay, that's one. Now I'm gonna make pretty much that same cut all the way up to the front over here on this side. focusing right here on this bend, right here where I know I'm going to have to cut it. I'm not even worried about trying to heat up this top yet because I know it's not where I'm going to go in the first run. Where I'm going to go in the first run is just this. Think about where your knife's going next and make sure that that's what you're heating up first. Look at where your knife is going next and think about that's what we need to be heating up first. Okay, I need to find my previous incision by holding the flap up. Okay, I'm in there. I can see my line. And it's nice and soft. I just have to very steadily pull it up in the direction. I've already got the other side cut this far. So let's go ahead and take this side up as far as it will go. Making sure I keep my hand out of the way. And that's as hard as it's gonna get right there. Whew. Oh boy, that's a lot of work. But you can see how much farther we are, all the way up into there. So now I've got to get this side all the way up about right there. Thinking about where my knife is going next. Making sure that that's what I'm heating. I don't have to be heating down here anymore. I just need to heat right where my knife is going next. And it is the thickest, hardest part of the plastic. So I'm really getting in there. Okay. And we've made it this far without hurting ourselves. So let's not do it now. Push the flap out a little bit to get right where you were. Boom!
Ooh, yes.
Thickest part of the plastic, but that's where the lip is. So soon it comes free, and you can still feel how hot that is. And you can see,
Excellent.
you can see that both of the braces remain. So there's that extra structural integrity for the fact that you've cut out the whole middle bit. You may only have one flange, you may have a little bigger nodule or whatever. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that it remains with the bin and doesn't come away in the part that you cut off. Let's do the last cut.
Almost there.
Almost there. So now that it's cut loose everywhere else, find that notch. We kind of have to hold it together. And this is a great example of why we cut it, leaving the circles in place, leaving the handles till last, cutting them both in coordination all the way up to the tip. Because by this point, you've got no structural integrity. And you've got to be really careful while you hold it and cut it so that it doesn't just crack, it doesn't just flap off and break. So, at this point, everything's worked out well for you. What remains should look something like this. I'm gonna get this cleaned up and we'll be right back with you. Okay, so if you've done what I've done and followed along, you should have this nice, relatively clean edge that you've kept straight because you didn't try to slice it all at once. You just wedged it in there and just kind of seesawed it along. But if you don't want to end up with this plasticky cut edge, you can use a fingernail file, or you can use like a little emery cloth. Or if you don't have either one of those and you're just stuck with the tools you got, I just went outside and I just walked along the driveway. Everybody's got these kinds of finishing rocks. Everybody's got these kind of filler rocks that are by sidewalks. If you get one that's just got kind of a smooth enough grit on it, you can just bring that inside. You can just very, very patiently just kind of keep rubbing that along just like you would a file. And that'll take off any little shavings, that'll take off any little sharp edges. You've also got your X-Acto knife. And you can heat that up, and you can just kind of take that hard edge off of it by just working the knife. Just kind of making those little striations off of there. And just take that sharp edge off. You don't have to smooth it out, but you can already tell.
Smoother.
There's not that sharp edge on there. So either way, you go out and you get yourself something that's got a smooth, fine little grit on the side, or you heat the plastic back up and you take the back side of that razor and you just make those striated edges on there. Either way you go, just a little bit of effort. It doesn't take much. It's not like you're trying to sand wood. You're just trying to take the sharp edge off that bevel. And it doesn't take much at all. That's already
Smooth.
smooth enough to touch. Give it a try with your little soft hands. Reach out there. Get on film. Get on camera.
Yeah.
Really works, right? Yep. Boom. So there it is. You've got yourself a cat box. You know, it's better to have these bigger walls so that they can, you know, really dig around in the sand if they want without spilling it everywhere. It's better to have these longer lengths so they can really stretch out and do their business. And this is how you cut a door in one. Thanks so much. See you soon.